Hey guys, good afternoon. It is a live stream. Hope everyone's doing well. Just gonna wait a few minutes, let some people come in. Looks like I'm having a little problem with my stream here. There we go. I'm making this video in my personal capacity, not in my capacity as the editor-in-chief of Uncover DC. Just as a person like you guys. And the video is brought to you today by a new sponsor who is absolutely fantastic. These guys are just amazing. Blue Monster Prep is their name. They do all kinds of, preparedness. They're actually a sponsor on Frank's show as well. And they came to me and we talked to them. And I'm really excited to work with them because I really like to partner with people rather than just be like a one and done and blah, blah, blah. But the folks here are just absolutely amazing. Patrick and Gina are the owners, and they started the company back in 2014. They saw how the world was changing. They are, an independent, Patriot-owned business. Again, you're hearing that about a couple of the sponsors I'm working with now. They are there to actually walk you through what you might need to become prepared for any emergency. They have all kinds of different stuff available for you. Patrick actually trained paramedics, EMTs, anesthesiologists, respiratory therapists, trauma surgeons, ER physicians. I mean, they're great. And they also helped run a company that specialized in improving the response to mass casualty and active shooter incidents and stuff for hospitals and schools. And you guys can call and they will walk you through how to do this, what you need to do, and how to best utilize what they've got available. If you go to bluemonsterprep.com, that's bluemonsterprep.com, and then you can call them. Their number's up here, 800-876-7816. They're very excited to hear from all you guys. They really are. And talk to them about what they do and how they can help your family to be prepared for whatever may come your way. And they're going to be a little staple for us on this channel moving forward, which I'm very excited about. So thank you to Blue Monster Prep for stepping up to support independent journalism. Appreciate you guys. So, use code BEANS. Use code BEANS. Okay? Thanks. Code BEANS for free shipping. Today I'm going to talk to you about something that is going on in South Carolina with the GOP, and I wanted to take the opportunity to explain the process and procedure and just give you guys a little bit of an insight into what I've been doing in terms of GOP stuff in South Carolina. And we're having a bit of tumultuous happenings here going on. So I just thought it would be best because a lot of people have voices and they're out there making videos about this stuff. And I thought that I might, in my personal capacity, also make a video about this stuff to explain from my perspective what's going on. So in South Carolina, there are 46 counties, and each county has kind of like their own rules for how they vote in their people and stuff like that. And when you go, you become a precinct committeeman, you get voted in as a precinct committeeman, and then, or an executive committeeman, they call them here in South Carolina. And then you are on your executive committee within your county. And there are delegates that are brought in, and sign up to be delegates to choose the leadership of each county party. And there are rules that govern all of this. There's a South Carolina, charter, for lack of a better word, that governs how South Carolina does its business with the GOP. There are also county rules and bylaws that govern how the county does their, business. And Greenville County is one of the largest counties in South Carolina, and they encountered some issues when they were doing their reorganization process, bringing in delegates and stuff like that. And what ended up happening, without getting into all of the details, I'll get into some, but without getting into all of the details, people within the Greenville GOP alleged that there was fraud in their convention. They had their convention for their county virtually. They used software called Election Runner to conduct that investigation, to conduct that election. People weren't satisfied with how that was run. People were upset about it. People were upset about some of the process that was used between when their reorganization date was and when their makeup date was. I'm just going to explain it all to you. I want you guys to understand it from an activism standpoint, right? So Greenville has their rules on how they elect their delegates to the convention. And one of their rules is that when you are brought in as a delegate, you need to pay $20. And that $20 covers the cost of the venue and all the other things that they need. But it's a rule on the books for them. So anytime any activist or anybody in the Republican Party is out trying to reorganize the county and bring in delegates to fill executive committeeman slots, et cetera, and so on and so forth, they pay $20 for their vote at the convention. That's how it works in Greenville. That's their rules. Usually, the state executive committee, the state party, does not get involved in that process. But for some reason, this go round, they did. And so what ended up happening was the state sent out an operative or an employee or a person, whatever word you want to use, to, for lack of a better word, ballot harvest something called a Form 1, which is where the people that will be voting at convention sign up. They put all their information on there. It's available so that you can contact them. So like you basically campaign when you're a delegate. There's elections for delegate to the state convention to elect the state chair. There's delegates to the county convention to elect the county executive committee people. And you basically go and campaign, and everybody's information is supposed to be available so you can email them and reach out to them and blah, 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 blah. Long story short, there were some serious questions about what happened in Greenville during this whole process, because it seems that the GOP sent out a person to ballot harvest these Form 1s so that they would be able to vote, and these people who were harvested would be able to vote in the county convention there. And that raised a lot of red flags for people, because there were rumors that they didn't pay their $20 and it looked really shady. And you know what? For people who are already on edge about process and how things work, people are on edge all over the place. When people do things that look nefarious, it's going to get an outcry, because there are so many more folks getting involved for the first time in the GOP. And this is kind of the thing that they're worried about. They're worried about fraud. They're worried about cheating. They don't trust leadership. And to be quite honest with you, leadership is not really doing a good job of giving us a reason to trust them. So their convention went on. The three people that were elected to the leadership positions in that convention were not the same three people that were responsible for a good portion of the reorganization. And they were looked at by folks as the, quote, establishment pick for the chair, vice chair, and EC. To their credit, when all of this stuff started getting brought up in meetings and stuff, they decided that they would, the chair of the Greenville County Republican Party appointed a committee to do an investigation into what happened during the reorganization process, to ferret out what went wrong, if anything, or did everything go very, very well. That special committee formation was appointed by the chair of that committee, Jennifer Black, the one who was elected, as people were alleging, fraudulently. She appointed this commission. Fine. They went through their investigation. It took several weeks. And they ended up finding that, in fact, the rules were violated the rules were violated when they did this whole ballot thing. What happened was the GOP sent in somebody to register people for convention to vote for the chair, etc., so on and so forth. When those people were registered from churches and elsewhere, it's in this report, they were not required to pay their $20. They said that there was somebody, an anonymous donor, who was covering their ballot, their money. The rest of the people who signed up had to pay that $20. There were 360 of these votes that came in, or 360 people that were registered in this way. It was against the rules. It wasn't proper. The money that was supposed to come in to cover their membership didn't make it into the treasury until well after the election happened. It was basically, people were left feeling like, and I'm not trying to speak for anyone, but this link is in the description box. You guys can all read it if you want to. The report shows that those votes should not have been, they're not valid votes. They shouldn't have been had, okay? So because of this, the people in the Greenville GOP, a good percentage of them, not everybody, wanted the existing leadership who was elected using this process to resign because they weren't elected in a valid way. The 3 people in those positions decided, yes, they were going to resign. Greenville GOP leadership abruptly resigns in overthrow launched by true MAGA supporters, in quotes. Whatever ended up happening, there are factions, guys. It seems there are factions. So there are people who are considered, quote, extreme by the existing party leadership that are not appreciated. I mean, I've been slandered as a QAnon conspiracy theorist all over the place. It's really disgusting what's going on because a lot of us are very passionate, care very much about doing good and getting the Republican Party back in line with its ideals and its values and working for the people and keeping our elected officials accountable and putting good candidates in and helping to support them when they should be supported and all of that stuff. And the reason why I'm doing this and talking about this today from my personal capacity is because I think that this is a microcosm of what's going on all over the place. And I want people to be informed about how this stuff goes down so that they can prepare themselves if they choose to get involved, which I really hope that they do. Because the more of us get involved and speak out against stuff like this, the better we're going to be. If we can't stand for something, I just can't. So they resign, but they resign, and the message coming out from leadership at both the state level and these folks who resigned is that there are basically terrorists who are harassing them, making it impossible for them to do what they need to do, threatening them, calling them names, all kinds of stuff. And I'm not here to speak to whether or not that's true or false because I'm not involved in the Greenville day-to-day. But I'm just saying that the reason these folks resigned isn't because they felt threatened or they would have resigned previously. And there's a lot more to this story, people. Don't get it twisted, okay? It's because the report, which is 16 pages long, the report that was written by their hand-picked committee identified issues of fraud in their election. You can't stand up. Whether they shrouded it in, they felt threatened, or it was because they knew they couldn't get anything accomplished with the good majority of the 1,200 people who stepped up to be a part of this, supporting them, is left to be debated. But that's not the story, really. Okay, so they resigned. The Greenville County, again, the biggest county in South Carolina, has no leadership right now. They have to go through the process of electing the new leadership, and that should have been well enough alone. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened. The chair of the South Carolina GOP, Drew McKissick, gave an interview to the Post and Courier where he said some really horrible things about Republicans in his own state party. He said, the Post and Courier says, earlier this year, a group of mostly upstate far-right activists who had been thorns in the side of party leaders for years formed a new organization under the banner of My SC GOP. While much of the attention focused on the state party election, the group also was working to purge the local party of members they deemed unfaithful to their cause. It's funny how they say that. Drew says, in an interview with the Post and Courier, McKissick described the situation as, quote, absolute insanity, and said that the SC GOP activists have engaged in, quote, totally shameful, reprehensible behavior. Quote, they have essentially preyed on Trump supporters, telling them the county and the state party organizations didn't support President Trump, which is a total lie. And then they've gone forward spreading rumors and innuendo about people, everything from sex trafficking to embezzlement to rigging elections, all this garbage, McKissick said. Quote, these are people who want to turn the local party organization into their own personal hobby horse, and that is not our mission, McKissick added. The mission of the Republican Party is support our platform and elect people who will support that platform and carry it into public policy, period. Anything else is a complete distraction. And he goes on to say, when asked about what will happen to the Greenville GOP. Long known as the state's foremost hotbed of conservatism, Greenville's local GOP could now enter a period of intense isolation from the rest of the Republican apparatus. And why? And why? He says, quote, "It will fall into a state of disrepair, become a complete dumpster fire, and essentially be a leper colony for the next year and a half." Now, it's interesting to me because Drew McKissick doesn't know who the leadership of the new party will be because they haven't put them there yet. They haven't gone through the process. He only knows that the folks that he was happy with are no longer there, and has chosen to say that about a whole bunch of people that have been working really hard for conservatism and Republican ideals. He basically just said that the entire Greenville GOP was, I mean, I don't even want to repeat it. It's gross. But that wasn't, well, he said year and a half because reorganization is in another year and a half to reorganize again. That would have been bad, and everybody would have been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that. But he didn't stop there. He sent out this email. I'm going to do this. Dear state committee members. Hold on. Dear state committee members. No doubt by now you've heard what happened yesterday in Greenville, but I wanted you to hear it directly from me. All of the officers, he sent this out to the state executive committee, of which I am a member. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. All of the officers of the Greenville County Republican Party resigned. Oh, and this email is out there publicly. I didn't release it. It's just available publicly. All of the officers of the Greenville County Republican Party resigned. This was due to the absolutely unworkable environment created by the MySC GOP group. This group is led by people who have no personal morality or decency and have harangued, berated, and intimidated everyone who disagrees with them until they just want to quit and be left alone for fear of themselves or their job. In short, the goal of this group is either to gain control of the party themselves or destroy it in the process. We will not tolerate it. Period. You can read more of the details in the Post and Courier article below, as well as their official resignation letter. The important thing is what we do from here. The state party is working with concerned Republicans in Greenville to create a new auxiliary organization that we will help build and promote to focus on being a positive, productive force for our party in the area. Greenville is far too important an area for our statewide ticket for us not to help them take on such a project. We will put the full force of the state party behind these promotional efforts. All Republican elected officials are being notified that this is being done, and such new entity will be the conduit for all SC GOP efforts in that area until further notice. The problem is, guys, that the chair of the SC GOP doesn't have the power under the rules to unilaterally dissolve a county party because he doesn't like who's running it or who may run it. They don't even know who is running it yet. They haven't been elected. So he's decided to start a club, give it all the power that the official Greenville GOP would have, and tell all the elected officials there that they're not to work with the GOP, the actual GOP, the actual county party. And they're only to work with this auxiliary club. And that's against the rules. That could happen. He could do that if the state executive committee voted on it. The problem is that this auxiliary club that he's creating and telling everybody to pay attention to doesn't have any elected executive committee people for precincts in their voting district, doesn't have any bylaws, doesn't have elected leadership by the people in the GOP. He's just putting a club in place and saying that it's the way to go, and the existing structure is non-existent anymore, for lack of a better word. Well, that's not okay. And I just couldn't believe he actually wrote it down. I couldn't believe he actually wrote it down, because there have been these things happening in other counties in the state as well, when there's been leadership elected that he doesn't approve of personally. And the chair of the GOP, they always are constantly preaching unity, and saying how we all need to work together and we needed to fight the Democrats and all this. But at the same time, he and others impugn the character of good people working hard and trying to work hard to move things forward. And, you know, they basically, if you don't agree with me, you're not, you know, you're not practicing unity, and you're a problem and you need to go. And it's not working anymore, guys. The elitist attitude is just not going to fly with hardworking Americans who are busting their ass to take their country back, okay? Seriously. It's just not. It's not going to work anymore. We're tired of you talking down to us. And I have had this happen to me. I'm telling you, there are some really horrible, horrible, evil people involved in local politics. Really bad people. Not nice people at all. Nasty, evil people. Like, in their souls. I'm not even kidding you. So, it's hard. It's hard work. This is not easy. We, at the HC GOP, looked at this and this action and said, if we don't stand up and say something about this and hold him accountable for it, or at least make our voice heard that we don't agree with what he's done here, in effectively, like a king, waving his wand and dissolving a county party, we're not standing for, you know, the principles of the party. We're following, you know, you just can't let something like this go. You can't. You can't let something like this go. If you're working with integrity and doing the right thing, you can't let something like this go. And our executive committee, since we've been elected, has always said that the power does not rest in our hands as the executive committee of your county. It rests in your hands. The power rests in the hands of each and every executive committeeman in their precinct. That's the way the structure works. We took office to divest the power from the top and place it back in the hands of the people. And that's what we have done for the past few months that we have been in office. And that is not being received very, very well by some people. But I don't care how you're receiving it if you're on the wrong side. And I am really sick and tired of everybody screaming about unity as they throw knives into your back as you walk away. We need to clean this up now if we have any hope of moving forward with a party that has any integrity whatsoever in the future. And we have to do that by holding our own accountable when they do something as blatant as this. So yesterday we had our executive committee meeting for our county. We brought a resolution to the floor to censure the chair of the South Carolina GOP. What a resolution is basically just a bunch of words on a page that say, we really don't like what you did and we want to punish you for it. We have no avenue with which to punish you. There's no power that we can, you know, we can't remove him ourselves or anything like that. We don't really have any apparatus other than to say on the record by passing a resolution that we really disagree with this action. It's unbecoming. We don't like it. It's horrible to do. How, in my opinion, as an individual now, I read this and I say, how dare you stand there and say how we all need to be united while you literally impugn the character of good, hardworking Republicans in your party. I just don't see how the two things square. And if you take all the emotion out of it and you look at just the actions without who hurt whose feelings and, you know, who did what and blah, 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 you see a chair writing an official correspondence to his state executive committee, there are 46 of us, saying, I've instructed all Republicans that are elected in Greenville not to pay attention to the GOP in Greenville and instead to pay attention to this club, and all official activities will flow out of this unaccountable club. So censure is just, we're mad at you. How dare you do this? It has no weight behind it, really. There's nothing, nothing. It's just a statement, and a very strong statement that we disagree. So Horry County yesterday brought this resolution to the floor. And of course, we're not 100%. We didn't have 100% of the people agreeing with the resolution, but that's why you bring it to the floor so people can, discuss and debate it. And then the executive committee of the Horry County GOP decides whether or not they want to pass the resolution or not. You have robust debate about something like this. What ended up happening at our meeting last night made me embarrassed, because the people that came in that were supporters of Drew McKissick, of which there are some, conducted themselves in a way I can't, the purpose of their strategy basically was to use Robert's Rules and Procedure to prolong the meeting as long as they possibly could, to either cause people to leave in frustration or to cause disruption. There were some people on their side that did debate, the semantics of the word leper and how he meant it and all that. But that really wasn't the crux of the resolution. The crux of the resolution was that he broke party rules. Long story short, the meeting made me sick as an individual to my stomach. I was screamed at by some folks, scary, like somebody brought up a motion to dissect the resolution line by line by line and debate each line of it as a body. And it didn't make sense because there was only one action clause in the resolution. So when he was done with his motion, I stood up to counter his motion, and in the middle of me countering it, he screamed at me like an animal and had to be removed. These are the sorts of things that are going on. When corruption dies, it sort of writhes around a little bit on the ground first. And it's all about, really, there were some people that stood up and said, this isn't promoting unity. We really can't do this. This is the sort of thing a Democrat would do. And to that, I would say, if we do not stand for what's right, we have nothing. We can't be afraid to stand up and call out wrongdoing that is in our midst. And then, this is the same thing that's going on all over the country right now. People are breaking the rules when it comes to voting, and nobody's holding anybody accountable. And what happens? It just keeps on going on and on and on and on. And so we brought this resolution to the floor last night at our meeting. Eventually, they changed the order of the meeting. They changed the agenda. They basically, there's a parliamentarian in their group who very, it was just nasty. It was just a really bad experience. And I got very passionate because I really believe, I don't care if you like him or not, if you are a friend of Drew McKissick's or not, or your state chairs or not, if they do something that you feel is really just beyond the pale and wrong and breaks the rules, and you don't stand up as a body and say something about it, you're enabling the behavior. And trust me when I tell you, I am not making any friends in Columbia by doing this, okay? I'm not. I'm already taking it from certain people. I don't care. What's right is right. What's right is right. That's it. This was wrong. It was gross of him to say horrible things about Republicans. That's bad enough. But it wasn't going to be something that a censure came up on. It's just, we know how he feels about us. At least now he's telling us to our face. But when he took the action, we brought the resolution. The meeting was painful and embarrassing. And the embarrassing behavior came from the same people that will scream in your face that you are horrible and you don't want unity and you don't want this. And then local radio has people on and they give one side of the story and then they don't really know what's going. It's really something else. I've never experienced anything like it, but it's okay. At the end of the day, after all the obfuscation, after all the nastiness, after all the screaming and yelling, the resolution passed. We censured Drew McKissick in Horry County yesterday, and I'm not happy. I went to the first executive committee meeting, and I was so excited to work towards actual, doing good things in the state, making sure we have good candidates, making sure we have Republicans that will stand up, and stand for what's right. And it's not going to be an easy process. It's not. And I'm okay with that. I said it yesterday at the meeting. People elected me to go there and do the will of what this body wants. Not what I want to do, not how I want to run things, but how you want to run things. And we are very much invested in taking the power from the top and putting it back in the hands of the executive committee in their voting precincts where it belongs, because that is exactly the way this party is supposed to function. The power lies in the hands of the executive committee in each county. And then they basically instruct me as the state executive committee woman on what they would like me to do in their favor when I go to vote on state issues. Yesterday, by majority, our party voted that we want to basically say that we are unhappy that Drew McKissick broke the rules of the party, that we're watching, and that we want to make sure that he does the right thing. I know already that he hates me. I know he doesn't like what I stand for or what you guys stand for. I know that they're so angry that there are people from outside of their little club that have passion for what's good and right and want the Republican Party to be strong, and they're coming in and trying to get things accomplished. I've tried to work with everybody. It's very clear that's not going to happen. And if that's the case, fine. But we're not leaving. And there are a lot of us, because we're done taking the bullshit. Okay? The people are done taking the bullshit. I have been fighting people like this who want to be corrupt and want to be nasty and want to thumb their nose. They're not good enough. During the Ron Paul days, we were called ragamuffins within the Republican Party because we didn't wear the blue jacket and the khakis, and we didn't, sip the... They didn't like us. They didn't like us in the party. They didn't like that we were passionate about liberty. They didn't like that we wanted to disrupt the status quo. They didn't like that we wanted to change things. They didn't like that we wanted accountability in our government. They didn't like that we wanted integrity and rules and law and order. They didn't like any of that stuff. And it seems that while these people say that they are conservatives, and but for the most part we agree on a lot of what, philosophy is and how to do it, there is a basically a war against Make America Great Again in certain places. And they'll pretend and say, no, we like you guys. But then they'll say that the right has taken over the party. Well, I mean, what is the GOP if it's not on the right? Hello? This is like literally something that was said. Be careful. There's a bunch of right-wingers taking over the GOP. Just sit and think about that for a second. Sit and think about it. There's a bunch of right-wingers taking over the GOP? Okay. Are we supposed to be leftists in the GOP? Moderate? What? I'm confused. Very confused. So I just wanted to spell it out because it is definitely a microcosm of what's going on around. And I would be absolutely thrilled to work with anybody who understands that we can't be wishy-washy. We have to have a set of balls. We have to stand up and say, no, we don't want CRT. Yes, we want a strong Second Amendment. No, we don't want mandatory vaccines. No, we don't want vaccine passports. No, we don't want, yes, we do want audits of our elections to make sure that our vote actually matters. Yeah, we want to change it so that South Carolina is not an open primary state. Yes, we want to support our elected officials when they do the right thing and make sure that they have the backbone they need to defeat the left when the left comes crawling up their door with a petition. But you know what I see? I see a lot of elected officials thinking that the way to go is to just kiss the ass of the Republican Party, not remembering that the majority of the people that go out to vote are like me. Here is a clip I wanted to play for you guys real quick. I'm just going to play the audio because I can't pull up the video right now. But BB put it in our room last night. It's very, very... It's exactly what I just here's what we're doing. Here we go.
The more people tell you it's not possible, that it can't be done, the more you should be absolutely determined to prove them wrong. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. Embrace that label. Being an outsider is fine. Embrace the label. Because it's the outsiders who change the world and who make a real and lasting difference.
I'm going to say one last thing before I go. I didn't step up to run for this position so that when I got there, I could be a pansy. I stepped up to run for this position to stand for what's right and do what the people of our county want. I stepped up to be brave, to take the arrows, to be, ridiculed, to be slandered in the press, to be libeled. But you know what happened? The people don't feel that way. The people are just as passionate as I am, and I'm honored, absolutely honored to lead in that way. I'm honored that they've placed the responsibility on my shoulders. I will not back down from it. I will always continue to do the right thing. I'm not going to play petty political games just to get along. I'm not going to do it. Do the right thing, you'll have our support. Stand up and stand strong, you'll have our support. If you do the wrong thing, you treat us like absolute crap, and you say, you basically just think that you can ignore us and we'll just go away, or you can snuff us out with your thumb. I have been fighting this battle for over 20 damn years. And I am not going to stop fighting it now. We are winning. And all we want is a party that represents our values, that does the right thing, that stands with integrity, and that holds the Constitution near and dear to their heart. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. So thank you so much for listening to a little summary of what's going on in South Carolina. We may get battered, we may get bruised, but the people of Horry County stepped up yesterday and passed this resolution. And being tired is never something that's held us down before. Love you guys, and I will talk to you